Greetings and welcome back everyone to another quick little touchdown video on a piece of lore that was mentioned in the dev live stream during the reveal and sneak peek of Act 2 of Echoes that we had coming up. The narrative director seemed to poke at this a little bit, and so I wanted to touch base on it a little deep here and actually go over a specific lore page that helps us understand how weird the Vex activity in Echoes really is, their behavior, and why it is so unsettling. Now, I hope that any of you that did tune into the live stream, you've also seen that the Bungie Foundation 7th Column Chaos was going on. I hope everyone that is able to donate went ahead and did so. I did so myself. I got myself the Graphite Daydreams emblem there, and then I also got the Lubrian Luxury and Disciple shell combo. So if you see me in game, you will definitely see me rocking those two pieces there. I enjoy the Graphite Daydreams emblem so much, and of course donating a little bit of the money goes to a good cause, so might as well. But if you did tune into the live stream here, you may have seen that the narrative director went through and identified for us that as we move into Act 2, we're going to learn more about why the Vex are acting as abnormally as they are, especially for the Vex. Now, you may have noticed that her statement is that they're acting more as individuals rather than a collective, which, in my mind, is kind of a double entendre sentence in terms of what I believe and what we may find out in the future, but I could be proven wrong. So, today I'm going to go over the page in the lore book Polyphony. This is the book that we are slowly receiving as Echoes goes on. The first page talks about failsafes, interactions with, the inhabitants of Nessus, the Fallen, still messing around with her bits that are all over the planet. But I'm going to look specifically at page 2, which is called Isolated Incidents. Now, just as a kind of forward before we get into this page and my theoretical connections into what I believe is happening, it may be a good idea to go and watch the Mysterious Maya video that I put out. This may help connect a lot more dots. I'll make small little references here and there to pieces of lore that I went into much more depth about in that video. So if you're watching this one and you kind of feel a little lost in terms of what I go over, then go check that video out. It explains a lot more. So, one of the things we need to talk about that most of you would have seen by playing any of the missions in Echoes is that you would have noticed that Ikora and some of the other characters are noticing that the Vex are starting to act less as a robotic collective, and they're beginning to use strategies. They're beginning to attack us, but then as we become more powerful and push back, they are actually retreating instead of just filing forward headfirst into death no matter what, as if given the command and nothing matters but that command. They seem to be thinking for themselves. We've seen them throw minotaurs at us and put up a defensive wall of sorts of their, I guess, soldiers, goblins, however we want to kind of identify them in terms of their army, their forces, a platoon maybe. But in one of the last missions for Act 1, we noticed that they're starting to retreat as we lower their numbers. The Minotaur would teleport backwards, and they're starting to use more strategies, and some people have even pointed out that it is dangerously close to acting like a guardian, making sure self-preservation is number one, which the Vex have never been one to do. They just continue to march forward and follow whatever command they are given, but this is a change, a difference from what we've seen. We've also seen the precursor Vex, the nice and shiny ones, appear once again, and they seem to be linked quite heavily to what's going on. So first, I'm going to read through the lore page and then go into a bit more depth about what exactly I believe is going on, how it connects to a previous theory that I've had, and also how it may solidify knowing who this conductor is, even from the start. So, here is Isolated Incidents. Report excerpts by VanNet encrypted router. Location, Nessus. Keywords, Vex, Neck, Collar, Mantle, Yoke, Harness. Incident Report 29. Location, Well of Flame. I had a hobgoblin in my sights, but some weird lights around its neck distracted me. This thing must have caught a glint off my optics because it looked right at me. Instead of opening fire, it juked backwards and ran. I've never seen a Vex run before, and honestly I was so surprised I missed my shot. I lost track of it by the radiolaria pools near the Well of Flame. Incident Report 171. Saw a big old Vex Minotaur hanging out in the shallows. It was far downrange, but it looked like it was leaking data or something from its neck. I fired before my box breathing kicked in, so it wasn't a kill shot. It looked back at me, and then it popped its own juice box and dumped itself into the radiolaria. Definitely creepy, but I guess it's a good way to make a clean escape. Incident Report 2507. Location, Wall of Flame. One of those sleek precursor models was leading a group of normal Vex goblins. The goblins all had glowing collars, but the precursor didn't. They were moving in a regimented military structure. One of the goblins stepped out of formation, and the lead precursor glared at it. I've never seen a Vex break formation. Didn't even know they could do that. Incident Report 4852. Location, Virgo Conduit. My fire team was ambushed by 3 Minotaurs and a group of Hydras a bit outside of the Well of Echoes. I noticed they had collars of light radiating out from them, and we'd heard to keep an eye out for those things, so we were taking the fight slowly. The Minotaurs were being really defensive, staggering their shields to cover each other. If you've ever gone up against a team of Titans in Crucible, it was like that. Eventually our hunter went down to some stray Hydra fire, and the moment her ghost appeared to res her, the Minotaurs charged in. I swear they were trying to go after her ghost. Took all we had to fight them back. You told us to report any aberrant behaviors, so there you go. Incident Report 8506. Location, Watcher's Grave. I was running a patrol on Nessus when I saw some Vex with glowing symbols on their necks. They were trying to activate one of their big portals. Suddenly it turned on, and a bunch of other Vex came out. The first Vex looked surprised and beeped at each other or whatever, and then both groups opened fire. The neckless Vex were wiped out, and the others ripped the radiolaria cores from the bodies and took them back through the portal. Or they would have, if I hadn't thundercrashed the whole group. Incident Report 7210-A3. Location, the Cistern. Cleared a group of Vex crouched around the base of a milk waterfall. Saw them clearly before I engaged, some precursors mixed with Nessus Vex. Nessus ones had the glowing mantles from the reports, but the precursors didn't. Anyway, when I moved in to make sure they were dead, I saw little model buildings in the dirt. I'm telling you, they've been building sandcastles. Incident Report 2447-C1. Pools of Luminance. I was up on a ridge collecting data lattice for Rahul, and I spotted a single Vex hobgoblin below, just watching me. At first, I thought it was damaged because it had a bunch of bright interference around its neck and it was moving funny, like its suspension was loose. Right as I was about to draw, the hobgoblin waved its hand at me. I figured it was signaling an ambush, and I looked around, but it didn't have any backup. It waved again, and I gave it a little wave back. I didn't see the harm. Well, it got real excited at that and waved with both arms. But then a Titan came speeding past on their Sparrow, hopped off, and blasted to hell with their Palmyra B. Probably thought they were doing me a favor. Incident Report 124K7. Location, Artifact's Edge. I was passing through that dark wooded area just northeast of the LZ, and I saw something shining in one of the big trees. I got closer and saw a Vex Goblin with something glowing around its neck. It was creeping through the branches and making a little noise, almost like it was laughing, if that makes sense. I threw a storm grenade up there and I'm pretty sure I got it, but I couldn't see for sure. I thought I should report it anyway. So, as you guys can see with these isolated incidents that are being reported by several different Guardians, we are seeing the Vex, honestly, act more human. The military regiment stepping out of line, the building sandcastles, the hanging around in a tree laughing, but possibly the most disturbing one to me that really threw me off when I first read it was the entry regarding the waving. Because the hobgoblin seemed to get excited, but even the description of it saying it was moving around like its suspension was loose would even kind of lead me to believe that the Vex looks like it's just more relaxed. It's more just kind of strolling around as a human. Now, obviously, this connects several things. One, that the precursor Vex are whatever is leading this change. Two, that the regular Vex collective is not okay with what is happening, and they are seemingly furious with what is happening. This is exemplified by the entry regarding the regular Vex coming through the portal, analyzing each other, and then both groups opening fire, the ones with the collars falling, and then the regular Vex ripping the radiolaria out of their chest and trying to return somewhere with it. So this almost makes me believe that either the radiolaria itself is becoming infected by whatever this conductor is doing or producing, or the Vex were ripping the radiolaria to try and take it somewhere else, take it somewhere safe, and we may see some conflict within the Vex itself between the Vex that have this mantle and this collar versus the ones that don't. Now, some of you may be asking, how does this connect to any of the theories I have? Well, the largest one, like I said, is from one of my previous videos. I believe that we will find out that this conductor is either Maya's consciousness, a copy of Maya Sundaresh, or, frankly, Maya herself. And the reason I believe this is because we know that the Vex are willing to assimilate Guardians, humans, or anyone else they find worthy enough to be a part of their collective. We know for a fact that with Ashermere, some of you may recognize, I believe, from earlier in Destiny's history, where he lost his arm due to fighting around a Vex library or Vex vault, whichever one they called it back then. And he continued to fight and fight and fight. He did not give up until his last breath. There is actually a lore page that describes this and describes what happened to Ashermere whenever we got to that point where the Vex finally decided when he was about to fall, he had finally had enough of this fight, that maybe we should bring him along. Maybe we should invite him into the net and be a part of us because he has been such a worthy adversary that it is better for our simulations to have him on our side. That page about Asher's assimilation, in case any of you would like to read and realize what happened, is under the Duress and Egress lore book, and it is page 9, and it is labeled Asher Conclusion. It explains Asher's final fight and how he walks into the Pyramidion and what happens whenever he does so. Now, with that in mind, we can understand that this could have also happened with Maya. She was obsessed with the Vex. It was part of her forte with the Ishtar Collective, and even whenever she created Soteria, an AI war mind similar to Rasputin, Soteria was half Vex, and was the AI that was imparted to be a part of the Spire of the Watcher, the dungeon that we've had in the past. Soteria was half Vex, specifically to be able to predict the future. Maya saw it as quite a big advantage to be able to predict the future accurately enough to prepare. So this could also be part of this, obsession. Maybe they saw her as a worthy opponent and a worthy scientist who was able to understand them and break them down, so they assimilated with her and let her become a part of the VexNet. Or the theory that I think is more solid in terms of evidence and possibility is that this may be a copy of Maya, possibly a darker copy of Maya Sundaresh, but possibly not. We don't know yet until we know the conductor's true intentions. Yes, it may seem inherently evil with what's happened to Saint, but the thing with Saint that I must keep in mind in order to keep an open mind regarding what's going on is that what was told to Saint is not necessarily a lie. We must keep that in mind with moving forward with this is, yes, these Vex are attacking us, but they're changing and they're acting human-like and like individuals, but also what was told to Saint is not a lie. Saint is not the Saint of this dimension, this universe, this timeline. The Saint we pulled out of the sundial and saved, quote unquote, is a different Saint. Osiris just found a timeline that was most similar to ours whenever he was going through those corridors of time. So with that in mind, that the conductor is not necessarily lying, but also that this could be a copy of Maya and or the scientists that were uploaded into the VexNet on Venus long ago, it would also solidify the theory that if all of the Vex with the mantles are acting human-like, who are they? Who are these humans? Who are these individuals? There couldn't just be Radiolaria that decides to act as an individual, and that's not how the Vex work as far as we understand it. But what I believe is because we know from the Final Shapes campaign that the darkness has to do with consciousness and an idea, the idea of being, and the light makes those ideas a reality, and we know that these echoes that have now crashed onto Nessus are a mixture of the two. I believe that the mantle is a way to attach some of the Ishtar Collective scientist copies to Vex to make them alive again, give them a body to move around in again, make them able to experience life again in some way, because as we know, if we destroy them, that mantle disappears. But just like in one of the previous entries, it's not unlike them to blast themselves, mix themselves back into the Radiolaria pool to possibly be reattached in a mantle elsewhere. I believe what we may end up finding out is that Maya is indeed the conductor, whether it is a copy or whether it is Maya herself that is doing that, because Maya would be one of the only ones as well that knows that Saint is not the real Saint. When you think about who knows this information and who could know this information, it is a very slim pool of individuals. And if you've played the Enigma Protocol missions, you know that while you're in this part of the VexNet, you can see the communications between Osiris, Ikora, Failsafe, and then you also see someone running searches. You see running queries that identify that someone is trying to learn about the Dark Age, about the Golden Age, and that seems to be where our story is really going to be focused next. And so keep an eye on that, but I still believe that we're going to see some version of this where it is Maya or some form of Ishtar, scientist controlling the Vex and putting their colleagues on those mantles to give them life again. And the Guardians are in the way of that. To be fair, we came to Nessus and started blasting everything. It's the same thing that occurred whenever we went and attacked Savathun. I am still of the stance that Savathun did not attack first. She appeared, and the Guardians went onto her ship and attacked first. So, who knows? They may have been more friendly. We're even seeing that we can wave at them, and they'll wave back. They'll be excited. Now, that doesn't mean that the precursors are on this same level, because these Vex seem to be isolated. They seem to not be in this military regiment from time to time and just doing their own thing. So there's still a lot of unanswered questions that we'll have to see as the story evolves. But that is my theory on it. That is what I believe we're going to see moving forward, and how these mantles connect to individuality and seeing these Vex act the way they are. Hopefully this kind of gives you guys a little bit of hope, maybe change your idea of what this conductor might be and how this unfolds. But I just don't see how we couldn't be headed this direction with the Ishtar Collective symbol we saw made out of Vex geometry at the end of the Wishkeeper mission if you completed all of the catalysts. knowing that these scientists have been sitting in the Vex network for years at this point, just living out their simulated lives and possibly creating tons of ideas and tons of, you know, theoretical objects and things that we can't use in our real reality since they're, they're code. But this now seems like their way to be pushed into the limelight. They can be moved from code to a body, and now you're seeing what they choose to do with that body. Now, like I said, we still need to know the real intentions of the conductor, but let me know what you guys think of this. Let me know how you guys feel about this Vex activity. And again, if you guys are able to donate to the Bungie Foundation just to get yourself some cool emblems and some cool items, I would definitely hope that you could go through and do that. But other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video and keep an eye out for the next one here.